Hey, future respiratory therapist. So another request here from another video that I got. I just want to read it to you, so I want you to know where this is coming from. This is probably one of the hardest questions I've ever been asked because it's not objective. It's completely subjective, okay? This isn't a question like, can you explain, vent modes? Can you explain ABG interpretation? Can you explain, pneumonia? This is all of those things are rooted in very clear-cut objective data that you just have to learn, and I just have to help you learn. Okay, so that stuff is pretty easy. This question is a completely subjective question. So I want to read it to you, and then I'm going to answer the question on what I think the answer to this question is. So it goes like this. I'm reading off my phone here. It says, what are the top all-around 3 things that make an excellent RT, not including assessing or caring for patients, because that's a given? For example, would it be recognizing a patient who has ARDS and how to treat it, etc.? Thank you. Okay, so that's the question. And here I am now answering that question on what I believe are the top 3 things that equate to an excellent respiratory therapist. Now, like I said, it's extremely subjective, so you're going to ask your own instructors this question and see what they say. You'll probably get something completely different than what I'm about to say, okay? Ask 10 respiratory therapists. You'll probably get 9 or 10 different answers if you're asked for the top 3 traits, okay, of an excellent RT. So understand that this video and this information I'm giving you is not rooted in Egan's. It's not rooted in anything other than my experience over the past 20 years of working as a respiratory therapist and working alongside of other respiratory therapists, okay? So let's jump into it. The top 3 things that I think make an excellent respiratory therapist. The first one at the top here is understanding your diseases. Like the question stated, recognizing ARDS and knowing how to treat it. Yes, that's one disease, but you can't put an emphasis on one disease. So what you have to understand is that arguably one of the most important things you can do as a respiratory therapist is understand all disease processes related to cardiopulmonary healthcare, okay? Now, when I say diseases, I'm not saying know what it is. I'm going to take it down a level, and I'm going to take it to the level of understanding the diseases and what the anatomical alteration of those diseases are. That's the key. So a patient can present with pneumonia, but your job as a respiratory therapist, to be an excellent respiratory therapist, is understanding how to treat that pneumonia. And when I say how to treat it, you have to understand the anatomical alterations that are associated with pneumonia. Okay, so we're talking about alveolar consolidation. There is no patient with pneumonia that albuterol via SVN should be your answer to that patient. Okay, that may fix some secondary bronchospasms, but it's not going to fix or do anything for the actual pneumonia. Another example, okay, would be take emphysema, for example. Now we're talking about an anatomical alteration that revolves around hyperinflation of the alveoli due to destruction of the terminal airways and the alveoli themselves. So when you treat this, you have to understand that 9 times out of 10, a patient in acute COPD exacerbation, they can benefit probably 90% more from you teaching them how to pursed lip breathe to relieve the alveolar hyperinflation than they can from an albuterol SVN. Okay? Asthma. Asthma is an easy one. Asthma is going to present, the anatomical alteration is bronchospasm. You're going to treat that with albuterol via SVN. Okay, so that one makes sense, right? But you have to understand all your diseases. You have to understand what the problem is. ARDS, for example. The problem is this laying down of collagen fibers inside of the alveoli that creates a diffusion defect. Albuterol is not going to fix that. Okay? Mucus clearance isn't going to fix that. You're going to need hyperinflation therapy. You're going to need positive pressure therapy. Increase the surface area. That will improve gas diffusion and aid in oxygenation of your ARDS patient. So the first thing is understanding your diseases and specifically understanding the anatomical alterations that come with that disease. And when you understand that, then you know how to treat that patient as they present with that disease process. Okay? Now the second thing I'm going to come down to is data interpretation. Now I'm going to drive this down to two main areas, okay? You got to be able to assess your patients. You got to be able to look at your charts, and you got to be able to take the data you find and interpret it to know what's going on with your patient, okay? But two areas underneath data interpretation that I believe make an excellent RT is that you can properly identify and assess and interpret your arterial blood gas values. You've got to be able to do that. You will not be a successful or definitely not an excellent RT if you're unable to properly interpret blood gases. Okay, so you have to be able to do that. And then the second thing under data interpretation is being able to properly look at your chest x-rays and your chest CAT scans and see the problems and then know what to do to treat those problems. Okay, so data interpretation, specifically ABG interpretation and radiological exams, interpretations, chest x-rays, CAT scans, things like that. You want to build this skill. Okay, now the final thing I have here is troubleshooting. You have got to be able to troubleshoot. This a lot of times falls under the realm of ventilator troubleshooting. I did a video over this not too long ago, but that's just surface level troubleshooting. Okay, you've got to be able to look at your ventilators and know what is wrong and how to make the ventilator breathe like the patient. Okay, that's a big part of it. But beyond that, you have to be able to troubleshoot your BiPAPs on the floors when you're taking care of patients on the floors that may be on BiPAP. You need to be able to troubleshoot them. You need to be able to troubleshoot something as simple as positive pressure therapy, such as Metaneb. If you happen to be in an area that's still doing IPPB, you got to be able to troubleshoot that. If you're going to deal with patients on oxygen therapy, and you got to be able to troubleshoot oxygen inadequacies. Okay, so troubleshooting is a big part of what we do as a respiratory therapist. Now, a lot of the equipment that we use today is the result of the RTs that 40 years ago troubleshot. They went through and they identified problems with the equipment, and they developed new ways to do it and to achieve the goals. And that all falls underneath troubleshooting. Those are my top 3 areas. They may be vague, but you have to understand you can't narrow this down to just 3 things. Because let me tell you why, okay? If you talk about data interpretation, if you have a patient with a normal blood gas, but a crappy chest x-ray, guess what? You interpreted the blood gas correctly, and everything was normal. But if you couldn't tie into what the problem was with the chest x-ray as well, then you're going to miss a big portion of it, and that ABG will not be normal for long. Okay? And so I can't narrow this down to 3 specifics. So here they are. Diseases, understanding anatomical alterations. When you understand that, you know how to treat them. Data interpretation, you got to know how to interpret ABGs. You got to be able to at least examine and evaluate a chest x-ray, okay, at the very basic level. To get even better, get in the chest CAT scans, okay? And then last thing you got to be able to do is to troubleshoot every single piece of equipment that you're working with every single day, okay? So diseases, data interpretation, troubleshooting, Those are my top 3 things that make an excellent RT. Now, I'm going to go off here for just a second on a little side note, okay? Those 3 things, in my opinion, make an excellent RT. Now, listen to what I'm about to say, because what I'm going to do is put a spin on it. The question was, what do I think makes an excellent RT? Top 3 things. There's my answer. You already got that. My question to you is, what are the top 3 things that will lead you to being perceived as an excellent RT? Okay? That's different than actually working and knowing this stuff and being... You can do all this stuff behind the scenes and still be viewed as a crappy respiratory therapist. I know it's crazy, but you just have to understand that this can happen. This triad of things here can still lead you to looking like an average or below average respiratory therapist. So how do I work? How do I go out into the workplace and give the perception that I'm an excellent RT? Those are 2 different things. Now, I'm going to encourage you to take what I'm about to say and couple it with what I said here. Okay? Because what I'm about to say means nothing if this isn't present. Okay? So to be perceived as an excellent RT, okay, here's my 3 things. First of all, you need to be extremely responsive. You need to be responsive to your nurses, to your patients, to your fellow respiratory therapists. And when I say responsive, I mean, hey, I'll be there as quick as I can and let me deal with the problem. Whether it's a nurse who has a problem, whether it's a patient who has a problem, or whether it's one of your fellow respiratory therapists. If you can be responsive in a timely manner to their needs, they will see you as an excellent RT. The second thing to be perceived as an excellent RT is communication. You have got to communicate with your nurses on a daily basis. You have got to be able to communicate with your patients. The more you tell them about what is going on with the therapy they're receiving, the higher you're going to be regarded as an excellent RT. You need to be able to communicate with your doctors. Okay? You need to be able to talk to doctors about what's going on with their patient and why you're calling them and what needs to be done for the patient. Okay? I will gladly pick up the phone and call the doctor at any second of the shift to say, hey, patient's not doing so hot. I think we need to get an ABG, a chest x-ray, and maybe get them sent over to the ICU. I'll call you back when I have the data to support that. That is communication that the doctors say, I appreciate this guy being on my floor today. That's an excellent respiratory therapist. That's an extra set of eyes for me. Okay? I will not call the doctor to place a bubble humidifier onto a patient. Okay? If you have a patient that says, I'm okay with that, but you need to call the doctor and ask them first. No, I won't do it. Because that's going to make me look incompetent and dumb, and I'm wasting the doctor's time to put a bubble humidifier onto a nasal cannula when I don't need that permission to do so. Okay? So communicate with your doctors effectively in helping them understand what's going on with their patients and identifying problems that may be around the corner. Okay? So the first one was responsiveness. The second one was communication. And then the last one I want to tell you about is Rapport. I'm going to talk to you about Rapport for just a second. You got, and this kind of falls under communication, but you got to understand that Rapport with your fellow respiratory therapist is extremely important and goes a long way in establishing yourself as a quality respiratory therapist. I know a lot of respiratory therapists out there who say, I don't even care about Rapport because it's not, you know, information isn't helpful to me taking care of my patients. And that's because the people they're getting Rapport from suck at giving Rapport. Okay? You don't want to give shitty reports. You want to give quality reports. You want to relay important information that is relevant to the care of that patient. And when you do that, the people you're giving report to will note it, and they will listen to your reports, and they will take the data and information you're giving them, and they will use it throughout their day. And on the backside of that, hopefully, you inspire them to give a quality report. And if communication via report increases amongst shifts, then patient care improves, and overall hospital stay improves. Morale improves across the department. Everybody's working towards the same goal, and everybody's happy. Okay, so there you go. Diseases. To be an excellent respiratory therapist, diseases, understand their anatomical alterations, know how to troubleshoot your equipment, and know how to interpret your data. Those are the 3 things to be an excellent respiratory therapist. Starting out, as those things take time to develop, you want to establish yourself and give the perception that you're on your way to being an excellent RT. Communicate effectively with your nurses, your patients, and your doctors. Give a quality report at the end of your shift. And be responsive to all needs that come your way throughout your shift. That's what I got for you. I hope it helps. I hope you go out there and find that this information benefits you in being an excellent RT and having a happy and fulfilling career in the world of healthcare, specifically respiratory therapy. Good luck, guys.